All right, good evening. Let's take a closer look at the massive victory in Maharashtra to figure out what really happened and what those big five takeaways are. So, what I'm going to do effectively in this video, in just less than 10 minutes, I'll tell you everything that you need to know about what happened in Maharashtra so that you're fully caught up. Okay. So, let me first take you through the numbers. Let me pull up the Times of India website because I found that these numbers are the easiest to actually digest. We're going to put that up on your screen. We share my screen there. There you have it. That's the Times of India. And the reason why I like this is because they've got coalition and coalition, right? So you can see the difference there. There's of course also the Jharkhand elections, but I really want to focus on Maharashtra today because big takeaways in Maharashtra. So BJP plus BJP, Eknath Shinde, Shiv Sena and Ajit Pawar's NCP. Crossing well past that halfway mark. 223 seats is what they finally settled with, leaving less than 50 for the opposition, which is Uddhav Thackeray, Sharad Pawar, I beg your pardon, and the Congress. So decimating the opposition completely in a way that no one expected really, except maybe one exit poll, and everybody thought that that exit poll was overstating, but obviously they were on point. And you see the Jharkhand election also. But I want to take you to the Election Commission website for just a minute to show you the breakup of the states. Now, this is important, I'll tell you why. You'll see the BJP here at 133 seats. Remember, the halfway mark is 140. And so, if they had actually contested, it was 145, the halfway mark. And so, a lot of the analysts today were saying that if the BJP had actually contested more seats, there might have been a possibility that the BJP could have actually made the government entirely on their own without anyone's help. But that aside, the next number that you see, the sort of brown orange number that says SHS, that's Shinde Shiv Sena. 57 seats. That's a massive, massive number as well. So the BJP and the Shiv Sena, if you look at that map, and I'm going to just scroll down a little further so you can see the map of Maharashtra there. So that large, splotches of orange is BJP. Largely, remember a lot of the analysts said Vidarbha region, which is the North BJP region around Nagpur. That is sort of abetting Madhya Pradesh. That Vidarbha region really held the key as to whether or not it would flip, and flip it has entirely to the BJP. Also, remember the Vidarbha region and Nagpur is home stomping ground for where it said that the RSS basically deployed their people on the ground to go door to door to do the thing that the RSS does best. Because remember, Maharashtra is home to the RSS, and this is not a state that they wanted to or were willing to lose control over. After that, the next number is the NCP number, which comes in, and this is, Ajit Pawar's NCP coming in at 41. That is a massive haul as well, and we're going to come back to these two numbers a little later. And then you'll see the 20 for Uddhav Thackeray Shiv Sena, 15 for the Congress, and 10 for, Sharad Pawar. Here's the thing though, Eknath Shinde by himself has more seats than the entire opposition put together. That sort of gives us an indication of how far he has come. But what I want to do is to give you the major takeaways of what has happened in this election and what is likely to happen going further. So let's go to our next major takeaway. Now, when a lot of analysts were asked what they think really happened, and I was looking through all of the articles that are being listed right now, one of the things that everybody is talking about is the slogan that the Prime Minister brought in his campaign. And that slogan was, Ek hai to safe hai. Basically calling for all of the Hindu vote or the Hindutva vote to be united over the caste problems. Now remember, when we talked about this beforehand, we talked about the fact that Jarange Patil's Maratha Andolan, where he was asking for a special reservation for the Marathas in Maharashtra. The OBCs needed to be, pacified and brought into the fold. There was a possibility of the Dalit vote being broken away, specifically in the Vidarbha region. Now, with the OBCs, we understand that the RSS did a lot of the work. Of course, for the Dalit vote, they have Ramdas Athawale, who also played a very large role. And we know that in the press conference that Devendra Fadnavis and Ajit Pawar and Eknath Shinde held a little while ago after the victory, they gave credit to Ramdas Athawale for doing a lot of work on the ground. But it was really the slogan of the Prime Minister that said, Ek hai to safe hai, we have to come together. Now remember, it was not said in Maharashtra, but in Uttar Pradesh, at the same time, Yogi Adityanath, who was the Chief Minister, was also fighting a bypoll, which they have done remarkably well at, the BJP. Yogi Adityanath took it one step further and said, batenge to katenge. And that tends to be his sort of, he's a slightly more aggressive version of the Prime Minister. So the Prime Minister said, Ek hai to safe hai, which is basically we need to come together so we can stay safe. Yogi Adityanath took it a step further and said, batenge to katenge, if we get separated, then we'll get basically slaughtered. But it is largely the credit for this victory is being given to the Prime Minister's slogan. Also to the point that Devendra Fadnavis, when he stepped out today to acknowledge his victory, that is the first thing he said to the press. He said, Ek hai to safe hai. The other thing that I did want to bring up to you, and this is point number 2, the second takeaway for me, is women voters. Again, everyone who is examining, and this is an article on India Today, everyone who is examining this election are saying the same thing, that the women voters played a very large role. This is Rajat Sethi, who's written this on India Today, but he talks about the fact that whether it was in Jharkhand and the tribal women voting, in great numbers for him in Sorain, and giving him and his wife the sympathy of, after them being, after him being arrested and taken away, and the wife had to sort of campaign for him. The women-centric policies in the Mahayuti government, the Eknath Shinde government, particularly the direct transfer, particularly the Ladli Behna project, seems to have really made that change. Remember, it is extremely, and one of the analysts have also said that after the Lok Sabha election, this was the big learning for the BJP, that everything else set aside, but for the women of our country, the gas cylinder, the vegetables, the just making ends meet is really difficult, especially for those at the bottom end of the social spectrum. So people who are doing daily wage work, who are having to make ends meet, for them, this Ladli Behna campaign that actually transferred 1,500 rupees into their bank accounts, and for some people, because they needed to have actually linked their Aadhaar card, and some of them got it retrospectively, so they got it for 3-4 months at a time. So, 1,500 rupees into 4 months, that's a lot of money to hit a bank account. And the message was very clear that if we do not win this election, this money will stop. And there are a lot of analysts who are crediting this victory to the Ladli Behna project and the Ladli Behna cash transfers that were going directly into the bank accounts of women of the state. Personally, for me, I think that projects that empower women to make stronger choices, support their families better, bring into focus women voters. And this has happened now. We've seen, I think, regularly for about 4 different elections, women voters have played a very pivotal role. And this sort of gives us the idea, and hopefully more and more politicians will start seeing the issues that women face as central to policy making and central to election winning as well. All right, moving on to my next big point, and this is the real victory of today. The real victory of today belongs to Devendra Fadnavis. Now, Devendra Fadnavis, everyone's calling him the man of the hour. He is likely to become Chief Minister unless there is a massive wild card that the BJP pulls out of his sleeve. It seems unlikely at this point, but the victory belongs to Devendra Fadnavis. Now, remember, Devendra Fadnavis has been a very interesting political sort of entity in Maharashtra. He started off very young in the RSS. He then was the youngest ever mayor of the city of Nagpur. The people of Nagpur are deeply sort of loyal to him because of the work he did at that time. He is considered traditionalist from the RSS, but he's also considered sort of business friendly, and he understands the movings of all of that. and he's really put in his time. So if you'll remember, after the last election, when technically he fought with the Shiv Sena, and then Uddhav Thackeray Shiv Sena sort of split away from him, there was that early morning swearing in that caused deep sort of deep embarrassment after Ajit Pawar pulled out of that alliance, and his government barely lasted a day. After that, Devendra Fadnavis has spent a considerable amount of time, about nearly, I think, 2.5 years, as leader of opposition, where he was not the chief minister. Then he managed the Eknath Shinde government, and he became deputy chief minister. Then he managed the Ajit Pawar split, and he became joint deputy chief minister. Post that, there was that very sort of hard Lok Sabha result for the state of Maharashtra. He took personal responsibility. He offered his resignation. That was then denied by the party who asked him to continue. He has now rewarded everybody who had faith in him by coming back and winning this election in the most thumping way possible. So I think this is the BJP's largest or best ever outcome in the state of Maharashtra, and it belongs to this man, Devendra Fadnavis, who is likely to be the chief minister of the state, who has, by all yardsticks, earned that position right now. And so that is, that's what we are expecting. So while we expect Shinde and Ajit Pawar to sort of still be part of the government, one expects, one expects Devendra Fadnavis will be rewarded at this point. Which brings me to point number 4. And that point is Eknath Shinde. So we're going to talk about Eknath Shinde at this point. Now remember, when Eknath Shinde took over as chief minister, he was considered a puppet in the hands of the BJP. He was considered a puppet in the hands of Devendra Fadnavis. There were discussions of where his photograph was being placed, how he was being shoved to the side, how he was not being allowed to speak too much and stuff like that. In the 2.5 years that Eknath Shinde has been chief minister of Maharashtra, he has won the loyalty of the people on the ground, because he has built the image that he is a man of the masses, that he understands what you're going through. He wants to be able to fight for you. And this is something that has obviously struck a chord, and people get it, people understand him. And Eknath Shinde has really found his own in all of this, and he has really come into his own as the chief minister. Like I pointed out earlier when I was talking about the election commission numbers, right? Eknath Shinde by himself has at this point more seats than the entire opposition, and that really puts him in a strong position. I want to remind you that in the 2019 election, the undivided Shiv Sena won 56 seats, right? Of that 56 seats, 41 joined Shinde, 15 stayed back with Uddhav Thackeray. So 56 is what the Shiv Sena had undivided then. 57 is what Eknath Shinde has won today. And this is, I think, according to, and I'm reading the numbers here from the Election Commission website. So Eknath Shinde is cementing himself as a chief minister, as a leader of the people, and also the person who is holding the legacy of the Shiv Sena. This was a tough one. Remember, the legacy of the Shiv Sena is embodied in the personality of Bhalasaheb Thackeray, who is no more, but his son and his grandson are in the Uddhav Thackeray faction of the Shiv Sena. What Eknath Shinde has effectively done is said, they don't believe in true Hindutva. I believe in true Hindutva. Hindutva doesn't belong to any one family. We're moving it to the NDA with the BJP, and he's managed to take it along. So he's managed to get a lot of the hardcore Shiv Senics to say, Uddhav Thackeray Shiv Sena is not what I believe in anymore. I believe in Shinde's Shiv Sena, and he's pulled that power away, and that is a massive thing. This cements Eknath Shinde as a long-term politician now going forward in the cabinet, and perhaps at the chief ministerial level, for the state of Maharashtra. He has proved himself beyond a shadow of doubt. So Eknath Shinde is a figure here to stay. Now, my last point on this takeaway of this election is Ajit Pawar. Let's talk about Ajit Pawar, right? This was a battle of the two Pawars. There was Sharad Pawar, who has been suggesting that he may retire after this election because that is what he's looking at. But Ajit Pawar really had to put up a real fight because after his really poor performance in the national election, there was a lot of talk about the fact that the coalition of Devendra Fadnavis and Eknath Shinde were trying to find ways to get rid of him, like a friend that you want to shake and you no longer want to hang out with. And there was a lot of talk about how he's going to hold on because he had had a fair amount of embarrassing sort of defeat during the national elections. But cut to today. Ajit Pawar has not only taken on the legacy of his uncle Sharad Pawar, but he's managed to hold his own. He has, at this point, as we talk, not only got the party symbol and the party name because he is the NCP and the other one is the NCP Sharad Pawar. So he retained both the symbol and the name. And it could be argued whether that was, done the right way or the wrong way. But in politics, all is fair in love and war and politics. The NCP has 41 seats compared to 10 seats of the Sharad Pawar NCP. This is very different from what played out in the national elections. And you'll remember also, at this point, it must be pointed out that Sharad Pawar has suffered the worst defeat of his career in Maharashtra. It's never been this bad, where his faction only got 10 seats, and I think that they contested about 86. So it's that's a really bad situation to be in for Sharad Pawar. But for Ajit Pawar, who has won Baramati, and also his local leaders have done really, really well and given him 41 seats, he has sort of crawled and cemented his way back again. Now, what happens to Ajit Pawar going forward, we'll have to watch and see, but he's not easily dismissed. And his friends, Mr. Fadnavis and Mr. Shinde, are going to have to acknowledge him far more. And if we saw today the press conference between these three individuals, and let me see if I can pick that out for you. Let me see if I can pick that out. I'm trying to find it. Pick that out for you. The three of them were sitting together. Eknath Shinde still taking the middle sort of decorated chief minister's seat. There was Devendra Fadnavis on one side and Ajit Pawar on the other side. And they seemed really happy. Let me see if I can find that for you. Yeah, I found a photograph. And they've basically talked about how there's no fight about who will become chief minister. The three of them are going to sit together and make that decision, and it will be a decision that they are all happy with. And so it seemed like they were in agreement as to what would happen next. My personal bet is that Devendra Fadnavis will be chief minister and the other two might take deputy seats. Also, I expect Ajit Pawar, in his personality, as we've seen as a politician, to ask for key ministries. Is that going to be the finance? See, in Maharashtra, I'll tell you what the interesting ministries are. There's finance, obviously. There's home ministry, which controls the police, and that's a really important ministry. Urban development, because that controls the city of Mumbai and Pune and all of the areas around it. Also, let me remind you that we've not had local body elections. So the BMC in Mumbai or the other small municipal corporations don't have elected representatives right now because the election needs to be called by the chief minister, and it's the chief minister who's been running the BMC or the local body. So urban development stays with the chief minister normally, and that means that they get to control the cities and the development in the cities, and that's a really important thing. So urban development. Also MMRDA, so that comes under urban development as well. Home ministry is really interesting. Irrigation is really interesting. And of course, finance. These are the big ministries. Industries, these are the big ministries in the state of Maharashtra. So we'll have to wait and see who gets what. But I feel like these three men are going to have some interesting discussions coming up, because normally what happens with politicians is they sort of know what they want, but they want to see how many seats they control. And the important part is, and I'm going to take you back to that election commission website for just a second, right? And I'll tell you, see, that's our press conference. My producer Ira picked it up. Thanks, Ira, for that. And you can see the three of them there. Camaraderie and Devendra Fadnavis looking extremely pleased, which he has a right to be, but still taking, the flank for Eknath Shinde, still sitting on his right-hand side. But I feel that that arrangement might switch pretty soon, and we're going to have to watch and see how that plays out. And the important thing here to remember is that the opposition numbers are so low that the opposition could, it's not possible that any of these, if either of these sides, which is the Shinde side or the Ajit Pawar faction, break away and go back to opposition, is not going to help them at all. Those are not enough numbers to make any difference. So that's unlikely to happen. So the opposition is going to have to be sullen and sit in the opposition and just be there, because there's no change that can happen. So those are the numbers you'll see. So even if the blue NCP switches to the opposition, it's not going to make a difference. If Shinde, and I don't think he will, switches, he's not going to make a difference. So it is very clear a couple of things from the state of Maharashtra. The Hindu vote is united beyond caste. And beyond any sort of differences. And they've actually, for the, and this is something that the BJP has been trying to do for a while. So this will be seen as a massive sort of indicator for the BJP. They've managed to consolidate the Hindu vote across, whether there's people who care about inflation, people who care about caste, people who care about jobs. They've managed to do that. The second big takeaway is that women have played a very large part, and women voters are going to be very important going forward. Devendra Fadnavis is the man of the hour. Eknath Shinde has now cemented himself as a serious politician, not to be taken lightly. And Ajit Pawar seems to have overtaken his uncle and gained back whatever he lost in the general elections. All right, I'm going to leave you there, just looking at some of the questions, some of the comments coming in. Aman Peshawari says, will Fadnavis become CM? Will there be resistance? I don't think there will be resistance. I think that he has earned the position, and since they were fighting as a team, I doubt there'll be resistance. There'll probably be a little bit of mandwari, as we call it in Maharashtra, in Bombay. There'll be some sort of negotiation on various ministries, but I do not expect to see a pushback from the allies. Prathamesh says, feeling sad for Uddhav Thackeray, but I felt like Uddhav Thackeray's campaign lacked luster. Quite honestly, it was not as high octane as it should have been. It was focused more on the Thackeray family. They didn't have as many local strong leaders as I expected, or one would have expected, in order to take on what the BJP has brought. There seems to be a major shift in Maharashtra towards the NDA. Even after the Nanded bypoll, there's definitely a shift in Maharashtra. See, the BJP has always been in Maharashtra, but never to this extent. So this is a new thing. This means that for all of those people, like we had Yogesh Pawar, who's a senior journalist on our channel, he was arguing that the BJP is not a Maharashtrian sort of Marathi party. I think that has changed today. Now the BJP is a Marathi party for all, or at least the Maharashtrians identify with the BJP. And so we have, you reap what you sow, Uddhav needs to leave now. I mean, where will he go? He will continue to run his party for whatever extent in opposition. But I must remind you that, politics is a long game. We have Pranav, it seems like EVMs were tampered with, but cash for votes, you never know. Yeah, see, I think the EVM argument is a weak argument, really, because you can say, oh, EVM when you lose, but so far nobody has really presented evidence of the possibility that EVMs can be tampered up till now. And until that evidence is sort of presented on a national scale, I think the EVM argument becomes, a very weak thing. How much of it can be blamed to the migrant vote or attributed? So I don't know how much of it can be blamed to the migrant vote, because only in Mumbai do you have people from other states working and living. But the rest of Maharashtra is deeply Maharashtrian. And people of Mumbai are also deeply Mumbaikars. So I don't think, I would not put this thing over there. I think what has happened here very clearly is the Ek Hai to Safe Hai has won. The idea of vote jihad, the idea that we have to stick together, has really come in and really punched through. And that's the important thing. All right, I'm going to leave you guys here. Thank you so much for tuning in. Leave me some questions in the comment section. Tell me why you think the BJP had such a massive victory and what this means for the BJP going forward. It's interesting because, and this is honestly what I admire about the BJP, is that it's a never say die party. They never take a day off, right? So I know this from being a reporter and from meeting a lot of people from the party, is that they have party leaders assigned state elections 3 years before that election has actually happening. So they have a couple of people regularly visiting every constituency, understanding what is going on, meeting local leaders. The BJP decides constituency versus constituency, who will contest, what is the makeup of each constituency, what are the kind of people who live there, what are those numbers, what do they care about, who is going to actually move them, who are we going up against. And they turned it down to a science, and a science that they take very, very seriously. And we see that they never let a loss bog them down. They sort of bounce back and fight even harder. So the loss, or the supposed loss, of the general election has really pushed the BJP to fight harder, to fight smarter, and to really understand what went wrong there, and to find solutions for what went wrong. And I think that that has changed the mode of politics in our country. This is a new way. And it's only those people who understand that who will be able to take them on. And I do believe, very honestly, that the Congress party has not understood it. I mean, the amount of effort the Congress has put into getting Priyanka Gandhi to win in Wayanad, which she should have been able to win easily, and she did win easily, and not put enough effort in Maharashtra because they somehow thought that they already had it in the bag, I think is a massive, if there is any sort of back to the drawing board introspection, as they keep saying they will do, that is something to consider, because they still seem to be leaning on their big faces, their family faces, and they've not brought it down to a science like the BJP has done, and they're not putting in that kind of rigor, the kind of effort on the ground. And until they're able to do that, the issues don't matter. What matters is what you're able to do. There is, of course, and we cannot deny the fact that there was, all journalists who were tracking this will tell you, a lot of money being exchanged on the ground. There were a lot of things, laptops being given for free, cycles being given for free, a lot of cash was seized. So there was a lot of that. There was a lot of money at stake at this election. The election commission was slower on its feet than it should have been, but that's all water under the bridge, because now the election result is out. And it is, if on the EVM scale, you could have argued if it was a close election, if there were a couple of, 500 margin votes that were going this way and that way. But with the margin that we're looking at right now, this is too huge to be attributed to just EVMs, especially when the Congress is, and the India bloc is taking home a victory in Jharkhand. You can't argue it one way or the other that way. So a new sort of beginning and a new dawn for Maharashtra, even though we're continuing with the same government that we had before the election. It is the incumbent government. This is a far more confident incumbent government, because Eknath Shinde in his press conference was saying that, they kept saying that, oh, this government is going to fall, this government is going to fall, this government is going to fall. And we answered with our work. That question of this is sort of a patch-up government, it doesn't really, it's a lawless government. It's a government that's been formed outside of the rules of assembly. That no longer exists. Now this is a government that is coming in donkey ki chot pe, because they have such a majority. And we're going to have to wait and see what that means on the ground. All right, now I'm really going to leave you. Okay, leave me some questions and we'll try and answer them as quickly as possible. Thank you so much for watching. Have a nice evening. Enjoy your weekend.